Good afternoon. It is Wednesday. It is 12:30. Well, it will be in a few seconds. And I am back again for a very short Facebook Live to give you some inspiration and some tips. If you are struggling with having a sales conversation with people that you don't know, and what I'd really like to know right now is, can you hear me okay? Because I had a fiddle with the mic today and I just want to make sure that everything is well. So if you're out there and you're listening, then just let me know that you can hear. This topic was something that came up in our survey of the group when people were asked what are their biggest sales challenges. Having a sales conversation with people you don't know is something that came joint forth in the survey, and I know that many people struggle with this, especially if you're at a networking event or some kind of function and you get an opportunity to speak about what you do. So what I say to people about having a sales conversation with people they don't know is, don't have a sales conversation. I know that's counterintuitive, but the best thing you can do when you meet somebody for the first time is not to start telling them about what you do. The best thing you can do is to start to ask what I call discovery questions, to learn about them, to identify whether they have the kind of problem that you can fix, whether they are the right ideal client or customer for you. So the way that you do that is by asking lots of open questions, and open questions about that particular person. So what are the particular challenges you're experiencing right now? What is it that you'd really love to achieve, or what's your outcome that you really want? What have you tried so far to fix it? What's worked? What's not worked? What do you love most about your business? What do you love least about your business? The kind of questions that help you to identify who you're really speaking with. Because when you don't know somebody, they are actually a blank canvas. And these questions bring colour to the canvas so that you can get a sense of who this person is in front of you. Now, the type of open questions that I really believe are powerful are anything with the word you in it. So rather than we or I or your company name, if you use you, so what are your challenges right now? What do you want to achieve? That actually creates a lot of rapport and will open up the conversation. What I've found is a lot of people, when they're in a slightly anxious state, ask a lot of closed questions, and that only leads to yes or no answers, and that means that the onus and the pressure is very firmly on you to keep coming up with questions or keeping the conversation going. When you ask open discovery questions, they are doing all the talking, and all you need to do is listen. And so the kind of open questions that work really well will start with the words who, what, when, where and how. Now for me, what and you become the king of open questions, if there were such a thing. And predominantly when I meet people I don't know, I ask mostly what you questions. Now the other one that's also really useful at opening up a conversation and keeping the conversation going is how and you questions, because that gives you process. What gives you the criteria? How gives you process. How do you currently work? They'll tell you what the sequence is for how they do certain things. Now, only when you've asked lots of open questions and you've got enough colour on this blank canvas that is this person you don't know, only then can you actually match what you do to what their particular problem is that they want to solve. And if you can't solve that problem, it is okay to say no or to move on to the next person. You are never going to be the perfect match for everybody. There's no salesperson on the planet that's converted at 100%. So all you need to do is to use open questions to discover what's going on for this person. Now, there is one open question that I am going to say you must never, ever, ever ask in any kind of sales conversation, and that is a why question. Now, the reason for that is whenever you ask a why question, you're asking for justification of what that person has just said. And when you do that, it causes the other person to become a bit anxious and a bit defensive. And what happens is you arouse something in the brain called the limbic system that makes them a little bit anxious. And then what comes out of their mouth is something that's stated in an unresourceful state. So not only are you jeopardizing the rapport that you've developed with them, but you're also causing them to think, oh, what can I say that's going to pacify this person? And what comes out of their mouth actually may not be entirely true. I'm not saying it's going to be a lie, but it will be an anxious response rather than a factual response. So if you were to ask the question, okay, so why do you think that X is better than Y? It's much better to say, what is it about X that makes it a better option for you? And then you will get criteria, because it's not about them or their decision-making process or their judgment of the situation. It's about what the criteria is that cause them to be more attracted to the X option. So never ever ask a why question in a sales conversation. It is a question for therapists and coaches, because they know how to use why questions, and if the person gets emotional, then they know what they need to do to get them back in a good state. So whenever you have any opportunity to have a sales conversation or an interaction with somebody you don't know, all you need literally is 5 or 6 really great open discovery questions that you know off the top of your head that you can pull out as and when you get the opportunity. So, for example, if I'm at a networking event, one of the things that I often say is, how does networking work for you in generating sales? Because I want to get into the topic of how a person generates sales. So you just need a question that opens up the conversation in a way that sends that person's thought down the avenue that you then want to discuss. And if you're not quite sure, then what you can do is put your question in the comments below, and then after the Facebook Live, I'll have a look and comment on those. So if you have 5 or 6 open questions that you can ask to get the conversation going, then you are streets ahead of most people. And then once you've got that, the most important thing is to really, really listen to what the person says. So you have your first question, then they respond. And your next question shouldn't be the next one on your list. Your next question should be something to do with the response they just gave you, so that there's a flow and you're going with the person's flow, not your flow. And that makes you much more captivating and engaging. Person feels listened to, there's more rapport, and then when you come up with your proposition, your offering that actually can solve their problem, give them the solution that they really want, then they are more likely to say yes. The other thing that this also helps with is, because you're not pitching as such, there are less chances of people creating objections to what you're offering. Because when you pitch, you don't know what their map is, their map of the world as I call it, and therefore you're pitching blind. When you've asked all these questions, you know exactly what you need to talk about and you know exactly what to leave out. So I hope that helps you the next time you meet somebody new and get an opportunity to discuss what problems you can resolve for them. I will be here at the same time next week. Please feel free to jot down any comments or questions below the Facebook Live, and I'll be delighted to answer them afterwards. Anyway, have a fabulous rest of the day and a fabulous rest of the week, and I will see you next Wednesday at 12:30. Until then, bye for now.